Well, what a day we've had here at the 10th IC Track Euro B final. Let's take a look. The competition was tough on track throughout the day, with drivers in the lower finals gunning for the top 3 places in order to bump up. Here in the 1 to 8 final A, the orange and white car 4 of local man Arco de Jong gives absolutely everything to take the final qualifying spot from German Steve Baumgarten. And it pays off. Quarter-final B, 13-year-old Martin Bax in white and blue car, seen here doing battle with Frenchman Sylvain Alc, takes control of a much more experienced field, and despite a few cuts and bruises, rockets from 10th on the grid to 2nd place and a bump up to the semi-finals. Also in the same final but having less joy, Jürgen Gielings, who seemed to be having a few car troubles. And despite the efforts of his pit crew, his, along with 6 other drivers in this finals, Euros were over. The quarter-final A, and one of the notable bump-ups, German Kai Oliver Gutschau, who had work to do after a disappointing qualification, and Arco de Jong, who had just made that 10th spot after his 1 to 8 final heroics. Sadly, the same determination did not pay off this time, and a 5th place finish meant he would exit the Euros here, whilst Kai shot to the front of the pack and would again bump up, this time to 8th on the grid in the semi-final A. And as Kai explains, the Euros for him have been no easy ride.
It was my first engine down and disqualified the first heat, and in the last heat I was very quick. He had a collision with another car and the engine stopped, and so I drive number 4. I don't think I come right in the semi-final, and I'm very happy.
You went from 9th on the grid to finishing 1st. Is anything possible on this track?
I was in the head very free. I will drive, and it was very good. I used rear tires, other thing. It was very good. And Thomas Günzel gives me the engine. It was very nice. And that was very, I have fun, and it was okay.
The semi-finals. The top driver's first run out on the track since qualifying, and almost halfway through the semi-B, and the front of the field had changed very little. Patrick Nahar in the green machine dominated the semi-B, and though René Puch got his green and white car out in front briefly, it was only a matter of time before Patrick stamped his authority on the race. Though René also drove with gritty determination and secured 4th place on the grid in the final. In the Semi-A, TQ man Pedro Rombouts was equally as dominant as his Semi-B counterpart, opening up an impressive lead in the early stages of the race. Behind him, a rough battle raged on, and sadly, German Patrick Gussauer bowed out before the halfway mark. And the man who qualified 3rd overall, Briton Adam Catchpole, finished in 7th, so would not make the final. But for the most part, Pedro stayed safely out in front, finishing 1st and with an overall time that would see him 2nd on the final grid behind Patrick Nahar. Another familiar face in British driver Simon Wood, seen putting the hours in during last year's B event in Lostalo, had a stroke of luck after finishing 5th with a convincing run in the Semi-A, was placed 11th overall in the timings, just outside the final. However, technical inspection led to a disqualification ahead of him, so he won back his rightful place on that grid. As the final began, Patrick got a great start with cars 2 and 3 of Pedro and Frenchman Kevin Rasquin also breaking away from the pack. Before long, Kevin was hungry for that 2nd place, and with Pedro defending it, Patrick was able to increase his lead. Kevin gained the position he wanted, but by now the green and white car 4 of René Puch was up to speed and fully involved. Mindful of this long race, Pedro seemed to concede the position and allow Rene into the battle. For a time this continued, with Rene in third, snapping at the heels of Kevin Rasquin, both getting closer to poleman Patrick. Whilst Pedro kept it steady in fourth. Before long, Rene was up to second, beginning to look threatening to Patrick. Then Pedro retakes third position whilst leaving the door open for local man Dan Jacobs, who eventually shakes off Kevin Rasquin and sets his sights on third place. Half an hour left and pit stops have left Rene Pook briefly out in front, though pitting himself allows poleman back into the lead. With the green and yellow car 2 of home favourite Pedro looking ready to take back his place. Though the need for fuel diffuses the battle and puts the lapped Thomas Gunsel and now third place Dan Jacobs in his way. Halfway in, and car 9 of Frenchman Maxime Favrel had fought his way up to fourth place, behind Patrick, once again out in front, Pedro, who'd returned to second, and Rene Pook in third, who hadn't stopped the pressure since the starter horn. 20 minutes to go, and the battle for first now had to deal with heavy traffic. And it seemed when everything began to hot up, the battle was diffused with pit stops. 18 minutes to go, and Rene had fallen 3 laps behind the leader and was stuck back in fourth, trying to unlap himself and get past second place Pedro. Again, when battles opened up, they were soon diffused by pit stops. Then race leader Patrick Nahar receives a timely stop and go, just as Pedro exits from fueling, allowing him to retake the lead. With less than 8 minutes to go, Pedro still in the lead, though Patrick clearly had other ideas. The battle rages on for many laps until Pedro finally gets past with a rather robust manoeuvre. And no matter what Pedro tries, he can't seem to regain his position. Yet again, the battle is halted by a fuel stop. But then, 4 minutes to go, catastrophe strikes for leader Patrick Nahar. He flames out. It takes 6 seconds for his mechanic to get him back on track. Just enough time for home favourite and TQ man Pedro to take the lead. 1 minute to go. Pedro is out in front and looking sure to take the win. But then, a splash and dash fuel stop backfires and Patrick can be seen soaring back into first place. And despite Pedro's efforts, Patrick has been unstoppable when in front all weekend, and he will be crowned the 1/10th IC Track Euro B champion.
Yeah, I'm very happy, and it was a hard race for me. Didn't think I've win.
Did you flame out, run out of fuel? Was there a point where you thought that you weren't going to win?
Dass der Motor danach noch läuft. Ich hatte gedacht, die Kerze ist kaputt.
He didn't expect it to run again, and he expected that it to, well, that be it, that's it. But he came back. He was on full throttle after that, and that was the scariest moment of his race. And the tire strategy was final. He knew he had one set of tires, and that was it. So.
Second on a European Championship is a good result for me. But yeah, if it's just half a second, then I'm just disappointed that I not won. It's a long race, so keep it quiet and save tires. But yeah, on the last few minutes I tried, but I couldn't make the last meters to him. Engine was a little bit better yesterday, but yeah, not really the issue. Just the last pit stop, maybe I didn't have to do that one and go for do or die to reach the reach the thing without that last pit stop.
Well, after a solid performance, the podium is made up by René Poupke. And as is so often the way, the man finishing in third place is much happier than the one in second.
It's René.
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 René,
Yeah.
congratulations. Again, it was a fantastic final to watch. How was it to drive in?
Yeah, it was sometimes hard to drive. My first set of tires was not so good as the second one, so I knew I had to change tires because of much tire wear. And at the beginning, 10-15 minute mark, my car starts a little bit to slide in left corners. The second set was really good, and I could push. I was shaking the whole time. I'm totally nervous, but I had to focus on my car, and nothing else was in my head. So, yeah.
And don't forget, you can catch up with us at the 8th IC Track Euro B final over in Germany. That's on EFRA.ws.